I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There,
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.
2024 Season 4, Round 10 of the Weekend Warriors Formula Ford here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. This week, we're at Suzuka on the South Circuit, and it's monsoon season. It may not look like it right now, but in practice, it was absolutely pouring down with rain. The track's still wet as we join the cars and qualifying. My name is Randall McGrew. I am joined today in commentary and in the production controls by Daniel Zippy Salmon, replacing Ron Mons this week. And what an absolute treat we have in store for you today. Daniel, what do you think is going to happen today in the wet?
Well, from what I'm hearing, Randall, it is going to dry up a little bit indeed, and thankfully so. Certainly at the Weekend Warriors, when we've seen it get a little bit wet, it doesn't just get wet, it gets absolutely drenched, as I see Stevie Ray hanging it out a little bit there in the background. But I tell you what, Randall, let's have a quick look at the points so far.
As we watch Stevie Ray do a bit of the Tokyo Drift, we're going to see what the Spec 1 standings look like. James Barry, who is conspicuously absent today, leads the way with 691 points over Kevin Adrian in second place. Jason Green hot on his heels there in third place. Then we jump over to Spec 2, where we have Adam Thompson joining the festivities today, hoping to reclaim his own trophy for fuel management. Joshua Wilkie leading the way in Spec 2 over Bill Walker, with Paul Jackson in third. And then Andrew Love knocking on the door there in fourth, hoping to join this podium battle.
Well, certainly we
And
see...
then,
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Oh, yeah, we got the Masters. I'm so sorry. I'm so
Yes,
sorry. And I'm
and
thinking
then-
of FE from yesterday.
Then the old but not slow Masters division, where we always see lots of action. Jörg Manny with a commanding lead over Brad Cathcart. Jim Brewster there in third, and Stevie Ray in fourth, hoping to get his foot on the podium here in the Formula Fords. And Zippy, this one could have a lot of points implications.
Oh, it certainly could, Randall. It's going to be an absolute belter of an event. And the layout we're using today for Suzuka is actually quite the small one. I mean, it's a very, very tight track, very technical track. And I'm going to try and find you a car in just a second so we can get that guided lap going.
And the lap times have been coming down as qualifying progresses, because the track is drying out every lap. So we're seeing a lot of track evolution. So whoever can set the lap last is probably going to have the most advantage. So we're going to see if we can get somebody on a flying lap, as we see a couple more rejoining. I heard some heated conversations on the radio. We see now jumping into Daniel Tuff's cars. He's coming through turns 1 and 2. We're going to see them run a little bit wider than normal as the track continues to dry out. Just to stay away from those curbs. In practice, these curbs were absolutely just massive puddles. You see him enter the X's, the rhythm section of the track that Suzuka is probably most famous for. Right, left again here, another right-hander. You see he's really trying to find grip and keep that car from understeering out. And then this final left-hander, you want to sacrifice the exit here. You want a tight exit to open up the cut through, as they see, he's going to have to deal with a little bit of traffic as he comes through the final corner. Basically treating this final bit like a double apex right-hander. Then down this long front straightaway where slipstream is going to be absolutely massive, wet or dry. So Daniel Tuff's going, and when it's wet out here, this is the longest minute of your life. Maybe we can watch one more lap of his as he attacks turn 1. You're going to brake much earlier than you would expect in these cars because of the wet conditions. You see him running the karting line here, getting a nice late apex, looking for the dry bit of tarmac that's forming. He's going to enter the S's in the left-hander, gets a little bit wide there. There's a bit of a puddle there still on the outside. You see the curbs are really starting to dry up, so he's able to attack these curbs just a little bit more, not completely, but able to run a little bit closer to those curbs. And in this downhill section, this is where you're going to find the most water still gathered there in the valleys. And as you go uphill, you're going to find this curb here on the right is pretty dry because it's right at the top of the course. So all the water will have run downhill, and we see him getting a little bit squirrely coming out of that last corner. And again, this track is evolving every lap. Every time cars go by it, it's getting a little bit drier. So we're going to see the lap times are going to keep going down. Right now, Jörg Manny leading the way with a 57.269, just 1/10 ahead of Ian Joyner with a 57.369.
Well, certainly we've seen a lot of pace here out of the gentleman. It's good to see Jörg back on track, certainly in the FE. Not a car that he tends to drive too often. Certainly was a lot more familiar in the Formula Ford and indeed the Spec Racer Ford as well. But in the FE, he certainly did not get the start he was looking for yesterday. I believe Jörg is using a manual H pattern shifter, which I've got to say a little bit of extra respect for him for doing that. I mean, it's pretty cool, but it's more talent required for sure, and that's certainly something I am lacking on. But he actually shifted down to second gear by accident in the FEs yesterday, and that kind of catapulted him out of his own race there. But looking to have a much better result today, currently not just leading the race, well, leading the qualifying, sorry, but leading the Masters division. His nearest competition and good friend is this gentleman here, Antonio Reese, who's good to see him back. He's currently rocking P9. And oh my gosh, Antonio Reese has joined us with an absolutely hilarious face on the front of the paint. Thank you, Antonio. That's just made my day.
Absolutely taking after his friend Jörg there with a hilarious paint job. That face going to provide some comedic intimidation to any cars ahead of him. There won't be many of those ahead of him. Antonio's pretty quick. But on these external shots, you can really see the dry patches on the tarmac forming. That light gray that you see most of the cars running around is where it's getting drier. And then some of the corners in the apexes especially like in the S's where you see that they're really hitting a solid line through some of those sections, you're seeing a really big dry patch form. So people are going to be looking for that grip all over the place, and you might see it actually start to dry out in a few places you might not expect, like on the main straightaway, right in the middle. I don't know if this track is crowned down the front straightaway, but I was watching in practice when it was at its wettest. The faster drivers were running in the middle. There was a bit of grip there. It was not dry, but drier patches in the middle. But if you go too far to the right, it was absolutely a river that would send cars spinning in a straight line. So you got to be careful when you look for that grip and make sure you don't find the puddles.
Absolutely, and certainly finding the grip can indeed be a challenge. Randall, as we see there, Ian Joyner was absolutely right up the tail cone of Julian Ditchburn there, not able to improve on his time. Jörg Manny's gone and taken that back. We're now in the 56s, ladies and gentlemen, with a 56.86. Kane Lasky not far behind, and again, he's getting a good draft right now, this time between... it's Michael McConnell there in the leopard print car. I recognize the paint, I recognize the driver, just the words escaped me there for a brief moment. And certainly these cars to draft can play a very crucial part, and being such a small layout as well on this track, qualifying very much in I guess impacted by who you can get ahead of you. You know, if you can get somebody who's got just slightly faster pace punching that hole in the air, this could indeed be a very, very beneficial qualifying, as Jörg Manny's going to set a 56.645.
And the lap times have come down nearly half a second since we ended the little lap guide. We have 3 drivers now that have broken through that 57-second barrier. So we have Jörg Manny right now leading the way, Kane Lasky in second, Ian Joyner also through the 57-second barrier, who was earlier in P2, now dropped down to third. Michael McConnell knocking on the door, as well as Daniel Tufts, both of them with very low 57s. So we're seeing a lot of track evolution here, and it's really going to come down to timing. Who's going to get that good lap in, who's going to be the last one to cross the line, and also get a slipstream down that straightaway. It's going to be, there's a lot of factors at play here, where we're seeing these lap times get faster and faster. We got Daniel Tufts here trying to look to the inside. Is that Kevin Adrian in front of him?
Yes,
not
sir.
quite getting the move done into turn 1. So this is going to be holding him up through most of this lap. So I'm not going to see Daniel Tufts improve here most likely. Kevin Adrian feeling the pressure from behind now. So Daniel Tufts going to be looking to get the move done most likely on the front straightaway. Still going to have time possibly should have time to set one more lap. So he's in a decent position to get some improvements here. But we're going to see who comes across the line last. They're probably going to have the faster cars. We see Tufts backs out of it. He wants a little bit of breathing room. So he's going to give up some of that slipstream down to the straightaway, and hopefully doesn't close right back up to the back of Adrian again on this last lap and find himself in a similar position.
Well, that's absolutely part of it. I mean, you definitely want to be trying to get that draft, but if you're too close to the car, especially in these wet conditions, and that is going to indeed affect not only visibility, but, you know, how you can reference the track and, you know, the little bit of breathing room. If you've got a car right on your nose, there's only so hard you're going to push. You're going to be more concerned with not hitting that car than you are to in setting a fast lap. But we're going to focus on, well, I say that very briefly. I was going to say Julian Ditchburn. He just went purple in the sector and then, for lack of better words, binned it. So the Lunenburg resident there not having the lap he was looking for. Let's try and take a look and see, because I do believe that Jason Green, he's got pace, he's got potential. Currently sat back in P7 right now. I do wonder if he can make an improvement on that.
He will be one of the last cars to complete this final lap, so he's in a decent position here to make an improvement. Julian Ditchburn, we saw him sliding through that last corner, but he did make his way up to P2 before that, so he was able to set a pretty good lap. We'll see how well it holds up with a 56.794, nearly 3/10 behind Jörg Manny. So Jörg, right now, the class of the field in these mixed conditions. Jason Green on a pretty decent pace here. We'll see what he's able to come up with, as it looks like it's green in the first sector, so a personal best for him. As now it moves on me. Yes, it stays green. We'll see how much he improves here. Another green sector, so we'll see him hopefully jump up the board, just not very much. Goes back up to 8th. So he had dropped down to 10th, jumps to 8th. So Jason Green with some ground to make up here in the race. We're going to have a few cars in front of him. He's got plenty of time to get some moves done. So hopefully his race pace is a little bit faster than his quali pace. Antonio Reese, we join him coming out of the S's, or coming through the S's. You see how much that track is drying up in that section. Is going to come through the last corner of the S's and then make that hard right turn into the final corners. He's
Sliding.
absolutely sliding it out there, using all of that slip angle to get the grip going and bring that car. And he's going to take the wide line out of that last bend, and he gets cut off just before he crosses the line. So not going to work out for him. They run out of time. Antonio Reese not able to improve his position on that final lap. And we have rain, ladies and gentlemen. The rain has come back. So we are going to have an absolutely exciting race. Get your umbrellas out. Jörg Manny on the overall pole and the Masters pole with the 56.508. Alongside of him, Michael McConnell going to start second. Daniel Tufts starting third. Julian Ditchburn, who we saw there at the closing stages of the qualifying, have some issues. So going to start on the outside of the road. Kane Maskey, who was up in the top three, is now starting fifth. Ian Joyner was also among the top three, starting P6. Kevin Adrian in P7. Jason Green going to be starting in 8th place. Joshua Wilkie going to be on that Spec 2 pole, starting in P9, alongside Daniel Varon and that 272 entry in 10th.
As we have
11th place.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Randall. As we have a look at 11th place now, we've got Chris Murakami. He's managed to put that on the top spot for the second spot for the Masters. I'm so sorry, Jörg. He puts it there for 11th place. Andrew Love, very much in the competition. We saw good racing from him yesterday. An unfortunate incident kind of saw him get taken out a little bit. He's there in P12. As we move on to P13, Jim Brewster yet again up upon the action. He's there alongside Paul Jackson in 14th. As we have a look at 15th, Jeff Jacobson, the Mountain Dew man himself, he's there in 15th alongside Antonio Reese in 16th. Stevie Ray, the Ray Esports racing machine, is there in 17th with Brad Cathcart, one of our Australian drivers, in 18th with Adam Thompson, actually surprisingly far back. I'm going to roast him a little bit there in 19th, and Gary Robolt takes 20th.
P21, it will be Bill Walker in the 319 entry, starting next to Jeff Wubker, who maybe is he a new driver? Yeah, new driver. I don't cover this league all that often, but it is a name I have not seen. Jeff Wubker, welcome to the Weekend Warriors. Then in 23rd, Tyler Hagan, and not setting a lap time, and does not look like he's taking to the grid in 24th, Simon Ball. So it looks like we're going to have 23 of these Formula Fords attacking Suzuka South in the rain. Oh, I cannot wait. This is my favorite.
Well, it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting race. And I think where this track is so short, Randall, I can see lap traffic being a big thing. And in terms of fuel management as well, like with it being such a small track, I mean, I think you could probably answer this one a lot better than myself. But like, how big a deal is it going to be to save fuel? Because, I mean, the lap really isn't that long. I mean, maybe you can expand on this a little bit, because there's a lot more tactics involved to this. Like on a longer track, like say take over the top like Nürburgring, it's more about making sure that you can make it that lap. But on a smaller circuit, what kind of influence is this going to have with that smaller distance?
So over the course of a race, you're still going to run effectively the same distances. How many opportunities do you have to come in and get service? They have way more opportunities, so you're able to save laps instead of saving fractions of laps. And with that big front straightaway, you have a good lift and coast opportunity. We see, is that Jason Green in the pits? What happened with him? We're going to have to go back and take a look at that after the start, because they're already approaching the final section of the track. Jason Green going to be taking to the pit lane, and that's absolutely huge in the points battle.
It's definitely interesting to say the least. I'm not exactly sure why. We'll have to try and catch up with him a little bit later. Certainly we'll catch up with him shortly, but definitely a big deal in the points battle. But let's have a look here, because Jörg Manny is getting ready to start this race, as should you be, Randall. Get ready. You're going to call the action.
And they are already underway. We saw the pace car dive into the safety of pit lane. Jörg Manny goes very early, which is a little bit surprising. He's going to give a lot of opportunity for slipstream, but easily covers off that lead. We see them too wide. Everybody kind of looking around for grip, and we got some wiggles on the brake, and there's a collision there in 4th and 5th, and that's going to send Daniel Tufts off. It looks like he's going to be able to get the car going again, but that's going to ruin his race. He's got a lot of ground to make up now. We see Michael McConnell here battling with Julian Ditchburn, and I think Ditchburn was the one getting a little bit under. Was it Ditchburn getting a little bit out of control there under braking, possibly leading to that? I'm not sure exactly who to blame, but I think it was Ditchburn, who's now moved himself up to 2nd place. putting himself between McConnell and Manny. Now going to try to reel in Jurg Manny as everybody's out here looking for grip. It is not anywhere near where it was before. We see them taking what's affectionately known as the karting line through most of this track, where you want to stay away from the curbs, stay away from the outside of the track, basically running the middle. It may not seem faster, but that's where the grip's at. You want to stay off where there's any rubber built up because it gets extra slick in the rain. And look at this view from Ian Joyner, the spray, and he's going to go for a move on the inside of Kane Lasky. We're going to see who's going to be able to break better in the wet. Right now, it looks like Lasky's going to carry that momentum around on the outside and retain that position. With more contact back behind, Jim Brewster making contact with Antonio Reese. And then there's absolute bedlam in the aftermath. His car's moving left, right, going through the grass, trying to avoid the stricken car of Antonio Reese. He's going to reset it to the pits. Let's take another look at that one.
So here we are on board with the view from Brad Cathcart. I believe he got caught up in this. You can see, there you go, there's Antonio Reese. He's doing everything he can, and yet not really a lot you can do, especially in in condition. And Adam Thompson gets caught as well. Actually, not just caught, he gets mounted there by Cathcart. Definitely an unfortunate incident. Certainly the slippery conditions causing a little bit of havoc here at the Weekend Warriors.
It absolutely is. Right now at the lead, we still see Jurg Manny leading Julian Ditchburn, and there's a little bit of a gap forming back to Michael McConnell. He needs to get on it to close this gap up, or he's really going to be feeling the pressure, and it looks like they're making a move for fourth place. Ian Joyner going to take that away from Kane Lasky. As we see Jurg Manny, Michael McConnell gets a little, no, that was Jurg Manny, gets a little bit of that curb there. And he's going to spin coming off of turn 2 out of the lead. Jurg Manny throws it away. We see him get on the curb here, and it causes the car to be unsettled and puts him in a bad position. Coming through turn 2, gets out there near the curb, finds a little bit of a puddle, and around she goes, taking Jurg Manny for a ride to the inside wall. He's going to be able to get the car going again. It doesn't look like a lot of damage as he's trying to get it pointed back in the right direction before he gets back onto the tarmac, which is good on him. But absolutely throwing away buckets of time here and going to really ruin his race as it turns from a runaway win into a recovery run.
Well, that's certainly not worked out for him. But one driver I want to keep an eye on is this gentleman just here, JG2. Now, he started from the pit lane. I think he could see... I honestly think that was a tactical decision. I think he looked at the rain and went, nope, I'm not going for that. I think that is indeed a tactical maneuver, and basically expecting the grid, which is kind of harsh, but kind of understandable, but in the conditions, expecting the grid to be a little bit messy, and certainly it seems to be working out for him so far. Don't get me wrong, he's back in P15, but we know this man can drive. You know, he's the coach extraordinaire, as affectionately named by Stevie Ray, and I believe something might happen with Tyler Hagan. I could hear noise in the background. Yeah, he's taking a little bit of a scenic route there, but I think JG2 has very intentionally started from the pits.
Yeah, he did qualify in 8th place. That would have put him in a position where he would have had to avoid that turn 1 incident. So he dodged at least one bullet that way, but he has a lot of ground to make up to get back to where he qualified. And he could have, in theory, been challenging for a top 5 or even a podium finish here had he started on the grid. So we'll see how it works out for him. Daniel Varon now dropping down the leaderboard. It looks like maybe just a discontinuity there as he rejoined. So not an incident there. Daniel Varon leading the way. Or sorry, not leading the way in P2 in Spec 2 behind Josh Wilkie, but not he's not close to him, but he's close enough that if there's a mistake, he's going to be able to capitalize. You see Jim Brewster taking a look on the inside of Jeff Jacobson, thinks better of it. That's where these Masters drivers, they have experience. So typically they're going to be a little bit more patient. They may apply some pressure, but look at the curbs. Oh my gosh, look at the curbs. The puddles have reformed. You got to avoid those curbs. The curbs are lava here in the wet. Stay away from those. You get in those puddles and it is race over, kind of like we saw with Jurg Manny getting spun around. So they're giving a very wide berth to these curbs. It is absolutely treacherous out here. Now, I will give a little bit of advice to some drivers who don't have a lot of experience in the rain. If you want to get a practice session going, make it wet like this, where it's absolutely soaked, because it's a lot easier to see the dry and wet sections. As you see, as they come down the front straightaway, they're all moving to the middle. That's where the grip's at. But if you move too far to the right, you'll see there's a little bit of a stream there, a little bit shinier stuff. And that is absolutely treacherous, as we see there out of Stevie Ray, the big wiggle there as he crosses that shiny stuff. So these sessions, while very treacherous to drive in, are very good for learning. So if you dial up the wetness on one of these sessions, you can easily see where the grip's at.
Absolutely. And certainly you can see there when Stevie, and not just that, I think Jim Brewster tried the same thing last lap. When you try to make a pass on that start-finish straight right now, there's just so much standing water that the car gets loose, and both of these drivers have been able to hold on. But passing is indeed going to be a challenge here. You see a very slight wiggle there from Brewster. Stevie Ray applying the pressure. He's almost side by side, and it's one of those things where you got to weigh up the risk versus reward. Has a little bit of a dance on the curb there. I thought it was going to be over, but able to keep that car in check. Stevie Ray doing everything we can. We're going to go back on board again. You can see Brewster taking the inside line right now, and certainly we've seen a little bit of slipperiness there, but we will see if we get a little bit of a wiggle. Is he going to shut the door on Stevie Ray? Certainly good sportsmanship has been part of it, as we see somebody looking to come out of the pits there, I believe. And these guys behaving very gentlemanly. You can see the car drifting over very, very slightly. Traction certainly not available in copious amounts.
I think I've seen Jeff Jacobson. It was in pit lane. He's now out of the pit lane. He was stopped for 1.78 seconds. So I'm guessing that he probably came in for repairs. And Paul Jackson, we're going to rejoin the replay. Paul Jackson coming out of the pits. He was stopped for quite a long time. So I think he was possibly involved in an incident that we might not have seen, but we see him basically coming to a stop here at the pit exit, letting some of these cars go through so he doesn't interfere with many of these drivers. And is he back in the pit lane? No, he's still out on track, but he is down a lap. We're still seeing a replay. He's waiting for all the traffic to go by so that he can rejoin and not affect anybody else's race, knowing that he's a lap down. We see Stevie Ray taking a wild pit entry. The Pied Piper of pit strategy has come into pit lane, so the pit window is officially open. Not the cleanest pit entry as he runs across the grass, but we're going to see him come into pit lane and get some fuel for that car and rejoin the race. Normally, once Stevie Ray comes in, the pit window's open, so he's in. We'll see who else comes in, but normally we'll see them go a little bit deeper in the race before they come in for fuel service.
I gotta be honest, looking at his pit entry, I wouldn't have been surprised if he got a penalty there, but he appears to be out within like the 10.9 seconds in the box, so I guess he has managed to get away with that. But let's focus back, a little bit further forward in the fight. So you got currently Joyner, he's currently pulled away. He's about 6 tenths clear. I'd say that, sorry, Mike, 1.3 seconds clear right now of Julian Ditchburn, who's basically leading this lead pack right now. You got Ditchburn, McConnell, Lasky, Adrian, and Wilkie. Wilkie able to snake on the back of that, got a good gap to Murakami behind, but his nearest competition is Daniel Veron, who certainly not on that pack right now, and not really a threat to Wilkie, so this is looking good. Certainly, he's been absolutely cleaning up in the S2 series, both in the Formula Fords and in the Spec Racer Fords, and certainly applying a bit of pressure now to Kevin Adrian, but he's got to remember, low risk, high reward, and I think a lot of these drivers will be thinking about that. You know, if you can get yourself into a good position, like, how hard do you want to fight, Randall? Certainly, if it was me at this point, if I'm Wilkie, I'm just going to try and bring it home. As you see that, a bit of a slide there from the number 223.
Yeah, they're going to be sliding all over the place. And if you're in Wilkie's seat, you're probably just hoping that Kevin Adrian can hold on to the group ahead and using that slipstream and some lift and coast at the end of the straightaway to save some fuel to get a fast pit stop. He could jump a lot of positions here just on good pit strategy and a little bit of fuel saving. So he's in a pretty good position. This line here, nobody's looking very racy right now. Everybody kind of biding their time. Michael McConnell, I'm not going to say I'm surprised to see him up this high, but normally punching above what I normally see him do in things like the Spec Racer Ford, he seems to excel in these mixed and wet conditions, so does it really well in the wet. He's very happy to see the rain. Jason Green makes his way up to 12th. Jörg Manny is back to 11th, so Jörg having a decent recovery run. He definitely has the pace, so he's made his way back up to 11th. We'll see how many of these spots he can get back over the course of this race. We have about 30 minutes left, just more than 30 minutes left. So nearly a quarter of the way through this event. Jörg Manny down at 11th, making his way back up. Jason Green, who qualified in 8th, started from the pits in 12th. So he's making a pretty good run so far. And following Jörg Manny through traffic is a pretty good decision, I would say, as we see Jörg Manny closing up on Jim Brewster. Jim getting very sideways, coming across the crest of the hill there at the end of the lap. Jörg going to look to the inside. He's definitely going to have the pace, but it looks like he had to back out a little bit. So he's going to come back over possibly for a little bit of slipstream. No, he wants to keep it on the inside to challenge and have that preferred line on entry.
See there,
And
Daniel
we'll take
Tufts
a look
getting the
here.
move done as well on well, actually, is that Daniel Tufts and Daniel Veron? No, actually, that's a lap car. That's Brad Cathcart. My apologies, I believe, getting mixed up in there. As you can see there, Jörg Manny certainly, well, he's been able to dispense of Brewster for the minute, and is absolutely, for lack of better words, he's hauling ass right now, making his way back. Certainly, we know he's got the pace, as you were saying, Randall, and I do wonder just how hard he's going to fight. He's certainly pushing it to the limits. Jason Green, he's trying to make his way up through the field as well. So a lot of interesting things going on. Adam Thompson is still back out on track, currently not the result he's looking for. And there you go, Brad Cathcart, that's who we saw get passed a few moments ago. These two closest on track for a battle, well, back there. As we look further through the field, all the action right now is up at the top. That looked like Bill Walker there, who's getting out of the way. Yeah, oh, and Kevin Adrian's gone wide. Oh, contact with Wilkie. And that's
Wilkie manages
Murakami
to evade. Yeah, Murakami comes sliding through in reaction. Looked like Wilkie was able to recover from that touch. Doesn't seem like he got any damage. Was able to drive away. So not going to lose much time on that. But 3 into 2 just doesn't happen. So we're going to jump back to a replay of Stevie Ray coming into turn 1. Let's see what happens with him. And he's just going to run a little bit deep there, gets on the brakes a little bit late, and is going to go for an adventure out in the gravel, Lance Stroll style. He doesn't beach it, brings it back onto the track, and doesn't lose a whole lot of time, shockingly enough. We're going to see Bill Walker is coming out of the pit lane. Talk us through this one, Zippy.
Well, this is the incident that happened there with Wilkie. You can see that's Kane Lasky on the left. Kevin Adrian runs a little bit wide. There's Wilkie. And I don't think he's realized at the time that Bill Walker's there. Gets tagged a little bit. Murakami spins in reaction, but thankfully able to keep hold of it. So definitely could have been a lot worse. It was kind of, I think, mainly due to the conditions there. The guys not having the reaction, the reaction time, not having the grip there to be able to react as quickly to the evolving conditions.
We'll see what the stewards say about it, but you have to think Wilkie may have been distracted by Kevin Adrian running wide, and his eyes probably went really big watching Kevin Adrian, hoping that he didn't spin across the track right in front of him, and then just completely forgot or wasn't aware that Bill Walker was still there and turned down. We'll see what the stewards say, but we're going to take a look here at Chris Murakami. We're joining back to live racing. Michael McConnell still in a good position right now, leading over Kane Lasky. Julian Ditchburn has been able to open up that gap a little bit right now, so McConnell needs to get on the button. And if we take another look at Jörg Manny, he'll be closing up on Daniel Veron a little bit. He's kind of gotten into a bubble. He had Jason Green right there with him. Jason Green has not come into the pit, so something happened with Jason Green that now puts him behind Jim Brewster. So maybe he's just struggling to get around Jim Brewster, and it's allowed Jörg Manny to run away from him. We're going to see him take a look on the inside, but Jörg Manny, whenever we saw him, I think I saw a little glint of metal through his visor. So that tells me he's got the dagger firmly clenched between his teeth. He is racing hard and trying to make up these positions. So far, doing a good job up to 9th, as we see Jason Green promote himself to 10th. Jörg Manny, the front end of that car may look goofy, but I guarantee you it is all grit and determination under that visor.
Absolutely, and I was looking at who's going to be next on the list. It will be Daniel Veron, but he's currently about 5.4 seconds up the road. It's definitely a big gap to close down there. That's lap traffic ahead of him, but right now the closest battle going on is between McConnell, Lasky, Kevin Adrian able to hold on to the back of that as well. Wilkie just about hanging on to the draft right now. I do feel that he is going to be able to close that gap. He's already got 2 temps off it just down the start-finish straight, and certainly in these kind of conditions, running these cars so close together, like, you're going to have the guys behind you generally catch up. If you just got a little bit of clear track, I think that may indeed actually be advantageous in these circumstances.
And I'm taking a quick peek at the radar. We still have rain to go, but I see clear skies behind. So by the end of this race, the rain may stop. Actually, no, I don't think that's going to happen. We might have enough time to get some drier laps towards the end of this race, but it's going to be wet. Even if it stops raining right now, this track is going to continue to be wet for the remainder of this race. We do see in some sections of the track, it doesn't look to be raining nearly as hard. Maybe on the front straightaway, the rain doesn't look to be as heavy, but once you get back down to turn 1, I see a little bit of debris there flying. Did we have an incident ahead of Wilkie? It looks like everybody's running fine, but it looked like a bit of debris coming off of a car from up at the front of this pack. Wilkie loses it under braking, going to make a heavy contact and with the outside barrier, and that's going to completely ruin his race. He's going to try to get the car going again in a very precarious position, wisely resets to the pit lane, but it looked like he lost it under braking. We're going to see if we can join him again. Yes, I'm just going to watch as he gets on the brakes, probably loses his brake mark a little bit here.
Oh,
we're going to jump to Daniel Tufts. We lost what happened with Wookie, but it looked like he possibly lost his brake marker in the spray and had to get on the brakes a little bit too hard and made an evasive move to the inside, got on that white line, and those white lines, even if they've been painted on there for a long time, can be extra slippery in the wet. That paint does not have nearly as much adhesion as the tarmac does, especially when it's wet. You hear it from motorcyclists all the time where they will lay a bike down in the wet because of painted stuff on the road. And I think that's what ultimately done Josh Wilkie in, was just a little bit of too much brake, got the wheels there over on that white line, and it sent him sliding, and he was not able to recover. Heavy impact, heavy points implications, and going to absolutely ruin his day. Bad luck for Josh Wilkie.
Yeah, certainly, and it's it's very easily done. Certainly, I remember when I ran in the endurance race at Watkins Glen. We took the Lamborghini out, and I was finding this the other day as well. There's a particular part of that track, so I couldn't tell you which corner number it is, but the very tight right-hander that kind of goes up the hill slightly before you have a small straight. I know it's incredibly vague, Randall, but basically that corner there, whenever, as I say that, oh, okay, he's back, we're all right. That corner there's certainly a little bit of the track. Maybe I'm not seeing it, a puddle or something forming, but it's the only part of that track where if I brake, you can certainly, in the rain, have me come completely unstuck. And, that can happen, certainly. It's hard to see all of these puddles, especially at the speeds these guys are traveling. I mean, actually, speaking of which, let's see just how fast these guys have been able to go. Is Kevin Adrian, Lasky there with the slide, able to hold on as Kevin Adrian manages to get that move done.
Kevin Adrian there late on the brakes, ran a little bit wide there on entry, able to keep it together. Kane Lasky, lots of opposite lock there as he followed him through that corner. So Kevin Adrian was able to get the move done because of his better run out of the final corner, and almost gives it immediately back by braking just a little bit too deep. Kane Lasky running a little bit braver line than some of these other drivers, are a little bit closer to some of these curves where there's puddles. As long as you don't get into those puddles, that's good. So he's finding every bit of grip that he can use so that he can get every inch of grip. And that was quite the view from the helmet.
I knew you were going to say something about that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like I have to manually reset the FOV every time, but it all comes with a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of experimenting here. But right now, Lasky's kind of having a little bit of a net issue, I believe. He's blinking a bit for me. Kevin Adrian's doing all right. Oh, no, that's Stevie Ray. Julian Ditchburn, nowhere he could go. Stevie Ray was, lack of better words, beached in the middle of the track. Oh, dear.
That's a heavy impact there for Ditchburn, and it looks like there's some suspension damage to go with that front wing damage. We're going to look at a replay here. Stevie Ray coming down the front straightaway, going to get the car wood up nice and early here to come through turn one, and gets a little bit sideways there. And he gets out there on that curbing and immediately tries to pull him to the left. He has to make a correction, overcorrects, spins the car right into the path of Julian Ditchburn, who has nowhere to go. Suddenly has stricken Stevie Ray in front of him. Heavy damage to both cars, and Stevie Ray's race is definitely going to be over. Look at that damage. Yeah, that wheel is not happy, and I'm shocked that he's going to continue driving it. Right now, I suspect that he gets a couple corners in here and realizes, oh, nope, this ain't going to happen.
Well, I got to say, at this point, I'm sure Ron Moores would be making some kind of reference to a cat. I'd say it's fair to say that right now that cat is holding on to the scratch post as tight as it can, and that cat being the wheel, ladies and gentlemen. Understandably, Stevie's having a hard time controlling that car, and I'm not surprised. So fair to say that his race, I'd say at this point, is, for lack of better words, pretty much pooched.
Yes, absolutely. He may still have a faster pair left, which is why we see him with such dogged determination trying to bring that car back to the pit lane, because it's a very short lap around here. The tow is a huge penalty, but a questionable decision out of the league administrator to continue carrying on. We see now Jörg Manny coming up alongside Daniel Varon. He's gotten into contact. That was a pretty big gap that he's managed to close. So that's Daniel Varon right there. He's managed to get it past Bill Walker and Gary Wobble both. That is Bill Walker right there behind him. Both of them were a lap down. And now he's going to set his sights on Daniel Varon as they come through the S's. It looks like you're able to use more of the track than Daniel here. Daniel really struggling to find some grip in these wet conditions. Jörg Manny looks to be a little bit more patient with his inputs, able to get a bit more speed through the middle section of the corner. Varon got a good drive off there. We'll see how well it pulls out as they approach the final corner and come down the start-finish straight. Manny going to have a huge dose of slipstream here. Should be able to get the move done before they get to turn 1, or at least in turn 1. We see Varon going to take a very defensive line. There's a lot of dry there in the middle of the track. Going to force Manny to the outside, but he's got so much momentum.
Well, it's definitely been an incredible drive so far by Jörg Manny. That gap previously was 5.5 seconds, so incredible drive to close that down so rapidly. It's good to see he's managed to make his way up, but Chris Murakami is going to be his next contender. He's about 3.6 seconds up the road at this point, so I have to see how that works out for him.
We rejoin with Julian Ditchburn, who's down in 11th position now after that incident with Stevie Ray, so he has to be thinking what could have been. Just like Jörg Manny is. Don't forget, Jörg Manny was leading this race in the opening stages, and now on a run of recovery, he's made his way up to 6th place. And that's not from pit strategy. That is purely from pace. So there's been a couple of drivers to pit in front of him, but so far this has just been raw pace out of Jörg Manny. So the Masters driver really flexing his muscles and trying to close that gap up to Chris Murakami for the Masters lead.
As we say that, let's find out. I've got a couple of warnings for crash incidents, and sorry, Tyler, you are one of them, sir. So then Tyler Hagen in the 499 car. I do suspect this turn 1 has definitely got a slippery bit of track, and you can see there he's right on the outside. The car gets loose, a little bit of aquaplane in there, and Jim Brewster and Brad Cathcart getting kind of caught in the mix. I've got to say, a nice 360 spin by Brad Cathcart there, but definitely not what anybody had in mind, but certainly, you know, the wet weather really playing havoc here, and I do believe that car has damage on the right front corner. Yeah, there you go. Control arms are indeed recalibrated.
Absolutely. The engineers are going to have a bit of work to get that car repaired before they load it up to go to the next event. So some work going to be needed on that car, and we saw a couple cars join him in that off track. It's so easy to have somebody else's mistake become your mistake. We see Kevin Adrian off the pace here, now going to fall back behind Chris Murakami and into the clutches of Jörg Manny. So Jörg going to have another car to overtake before he gets to that Masters division leader. So we'll see how well Jörg Manny can make his way past.
Oh, there you go.
Kevin Adrian, yeah, he loses it coming out of turn 2, makes some contact, so he's going to have some front end damage. That's going to affect his straight line speed. Loses the front wing, or what little bit of front wing there is, and we're going to see him coming to the pit lane. Kevin Adrian coming in for fuel service and to get some repairs on that car.
Well, I can't say that I'm surprised, but right now we did have an interesting pass right now, and this one's interesting for me in particular because it is the old boss versus current producer. I say current producer. Wilkie's currently in the car. He's a talented individual, but I don't think he could drive, not in the wet and produce at the same time. Certainly, if it was dry, I'm sure he'd still be better than me at that point. But him and Thompson having a little bit of a battle right there as I'm getting another crash warning. I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I generally don't like to focus on crashes too much, but if you guys keep lining them up, it's fair to say I'm going to start playing some of them. So let's see exactly what happened to Jeff Jacobson.
And you see Jeff Jacobson coming out of turn 2, gets it a little bit wide coming out of the exit, but it's fine. And then he's going to attack the S's and just comes in with a little bit too much brake or a little bit too much speed, loses the rear end of that car, slides it around, going to have to make a quick little jaunt through the gravel, then rejoins the race. Adam Thompson, yeah, poor Josh Wilkie, you know your race has gone bad if you're all the way back here with the likes of Adam Thompson. I wouldn't say that there's Wilkie with a big check up there coming out of turn 2, gets a little bit wide, and you see what happens. Gets a little bit loosey-goosey, and hopefully he's wearing his brown driving suit after that incident, manages to keep it pointed in the right direction and continues on into the S's and falling back to Adam Thompson. So Adam may be licking his chops a little bit here.
Well, potentially that gap was starting to open up a little bit, but certainly if that was me after an incident like that, I would definitely be backing it off a little bit. Now, this gentleman here, Adam Thompson, I don't believe he knows how to back off. I think it's only generally one speed and go, and he certainly, you know, it's not that he has a rivalry necessarily with Wilkie, but certainly I know if it was me, and I've raced against Thompson a couple of times, usually involving me inadvertently taking him out, and he will definitely attest to that. And maybe cry about it a little bit. But certainly you want to
runs wide.
You want to try and certainly beat the competition and beat your friend kind of deal. And it's definitely a little bit of friendly rivalry here. The closest battle we have happening on track, and don't get me wrong, it's back for P17 right now, but you can see there the puddles. Wilkie dancing on the curb there. I thought that was going to end very, very badly, but thankfully able to keep it in check. And certainly a different kind of discipline here today at Suzuka. You're not just fighting the guy around you, but you are also fighting the traction and the track. The conditions providing a very interesting set of circumstances for the drivers here today.
And a little peek into the biography of Adam Thompson. He's a bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to driving. He's fairly decent at all disciplines of driving. So you would think he would really excel in the wet here, able to, make use of the sliding conditions, and he's able to keep on Josh Wilkie here. And I can tell you, Adam's a close personal friend of mine. He drives a lot like me, where it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You're a dog chasing a car. If there's somebody in front of you, your first objective is to get around that car, and we see him really dialing up the pressure here on Wilkie. He's looking at all around, hoping to maybe apply a little bit of intimidation tactics here with Wilkie. I know I get a little nervous whenever I see that black and red Adam Thompson behind me. And we see Chris Murakami rejoins the race in front of them. He had come in for pit service. The first of what we're going to call the leaders to come in. Daniel Varon has entered the pit lane. So Murakami rejoins in front of this battle, and it's now a three-way fight for this position. Murakami is going to have his hands full. The two drivers behind him, though, have not pit yet, so he just needs to play the safety game here, maybe even let these guys go and hang on to the back of them if they continue to show this pace.
Well, certainly I would definitely be alarmed, and you can see there Wilkie and Thompson are both kind of in a hurry there. I thought they were going to send it free wide, and you can see just even then Thompson moving on the straight, a bit of a wiggle. Murakami's got a bit of a wiggle. Had the SMB drivers been split up, it does appear that Thompson is currently out of it, and these guys are on different laps as well. So you got like the blue flag is not going to help, and Wilkie, while being a lap down to Murakami, is certainly, I'm faster and I'm going, and understandably so. But that's going to separate this fight for a little bit. If Thompson wants to stay on the back of the 223 machine, he's going to have to get past Murakami, not just quickly, but cleanly.
Normally, you see the driver on the faster lap using the lap down cars as a wedge, but we see it play out in reverse here as Wilkie is able to get around and now able to beat feet and open up a bit of a gap, causing Thompson to be stuck here behind Murakami. Thompson going to be very eager to get around Murakami, or to try to get Murakami to pick up the pace a little bit. I'm a bit surprised we didn't see Thompson dip into the pit lane there. It would have been a good opportunity to come in for fuel and try to clear himself of this car. Though it's on a faster lap, seems to be a little bit slower than him at this stage of the race. Thompson adapting well to the conditions, able to keep the pace up pretty well. Murakami looks to be struggling a little bit, still leading over Thompson. They are on different laps, so this is not a fight for position, but Murakami's not going to be at all interested to get out of Thompson's way, knowing that Thompson is a lap down to him. So Thompson's going to have his work cut out for him. He's going to have to make this move happen or pit to get out of this traffic.
Well, both Thompson and Wilkie have been involved in incidents, and speaking of which, the gentleman who was leading S2 has indeed had an incident. Let's have a look, see what happened to Daniel Varon, the Pennsylvania driver. Certainly Ron is going to be in tears with this situation here, representing the home crowd. Let's see exactly what happened. He was leading the S2. You see Bill Walker going up on the inside. He just stopped.
I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Possibly a technical issue, either with the car or with his PC or rig. But he does come to a stop at a very precarious position in the track, and then inexplicably starts going again. So you have to wonder what's going on there with Daniel Varon, who is the effective leader for Spec 2, but maybe not now after that incident. And Adam Thompson finally gives up the ghost. We see him there off in the grass at the turn to Apex. So something gone wrong with Adam Thompson as he tries to tried to make his way around Chris Murakami. Not exactly sure what happened. Maybe we can load up the replay of that. We see Jeff Woodker, the newcomer, now currently in P10, up 12 spots from where he started. Some of that is pit cycle, some of that is pace, some of that is just pure survival, as JG2 is now in the pit lane coming in for service, and he's got a very, very snappy pit stop at only 6.83 seconds, where everybody else is in the 9s. So hopefully Jason Green has enough fuel in that car, possibly has been employing some fuel saving. Very easy to do around here with this big straightaway. So could be some fuel saving, could be he's pushing the margin a little bit. Jeff Wubker right now holding steady here in P10 ahead of Andrew Love, and we see him. He's still on the karting line. He's still giving pretty wide berth to some of these slicker spots and able to keep this pace going, trying to close down the gap to Kevin Adrian ahead. He's got a lap car ahead of him right now. I'm not exactly sure who that is in the yellow machine ahead of him, but
Race
Kevin
leader.
Adrian is yes, that is the race leader, Ian Joyner. So Ian Joyner opened up a massive gap. I haven't really been paying attention to the lead because we haven't seen any fights. Ian Joyner with a 15.5-second gap over Michael McConnell in P2. So Joyner absolutely enjoying these wet conditions and putting on a clinic in the wet. Michael McConnell's still got Kane Lasky. Kane Lasky's been showing a lot of patience today running in P3. You have to think Lasky's been employing a lot of fuel saving tactics here behind McConnell because he hasn't really looked to make a move on him the entire race. So McConnell been sitting very comfortably in second place. Kane Lasky right behind him. You got to think, though, after the pit stop, all we see is that Thompson again sliding off in front of the pack there. Yes, it is Adam Thompson really struggling with turn 2 now all of a sudden. So you have to wonder maybe if he picked up some damage somewhere that's causing him to struggle there in turn 2. Or possibly it's just a loose nut behind the wheel.
That is potentially what is going on, but certainly, as I'm going to have a quick recap here, Jörg Manny has managed to move his way into the Masters lead. Absolutely fantastic drive there. Jim Brewster in second, because I do believe this is what happened to Chris Murakami. Now, he was holding on to that top spot for a little bit, so it looks like you can see Wilkie ahead of him. Thompson's 2 cars back. And I believe that is the newcomer, Jeff Wupka, behind him. And let's see, yep, it looks like it's going to be another casualty here in turn 1. You can see, oh, round he goes. Certainly nothing to feel guilty about there. A lot of drivers coming unstuck. That's what happened to Murakami. As we have a look, we got Adam Thompson as well. Let's see what happened to him. There you go, there's Murakami ahead of him. So certainly Thompson was keen to get by. And I wonder if this is that incident you just saw happening in the background. Maybe that is what went and caught out Thompson. And yep, exactly the same thing. So Murakami does it one lap, Thompson does it the next. What else we had going on? Kevin Adrian, I see, having a little bit of an incident. And I do wonder if it's going to be the same spot as well. You can see that's Ian Joyner behind him, I believe. Yeah, that's the number 8 car, race leader right behind him. Let's see exactly what happened to Kevin Adrian. And I've got a feeling it's going to be a lot the same thing. Yeah, wow. Round he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Round he goes.
A little bit different spot. We see most people struggling there with the exit of turn 1, the entry to turn 2, getting out on that curb. It looked like Kevin Adrian there just got too much of the curb. There's still a bit of a puddle there on the apex of turn 1 that sent him around. And that Adam Thompson incident is actually, I believe, the first of 2 incidents. I think that was the first one that happened when he was still trying to get around Murakami a few laps ago. And then we saw the more recent one where he struggled in turn 2 in a similar position. So, but Murakami did pit out of the Masters Division lead. So once we see Jörg Manny come in for service, we'll see how that race shakes out. But Murakami has been struggling with traffic and sliding. So he may now be in P2s. We're going to take a look at Jörg Manny. Unless Jörg Manny is going to have another incident here. We see him coming down the front straightaway. What happened here, Daniel?
Well, I just got the warning for it. I'm just trying to keep an eye on who has and who hasn't pit. And it looks like, yeah, that turn 1 is indeed, it's almost getting to a red flag scenario at this point. Because a couple of cars certainly... You know, I do wonder if somebody's there with a Cooper shell and just absolutely like firing it at cars as they go by, but thankfully no damage there. But as we have a look at the timing tower very quickly, you can see there's quite a few drivers who have yet to make a stop. Joyner, not yet stopped. McConnell, Lasky, Manny, Tufts as well. And certainly it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes up because obviously, you know, a lot of the drivers, as I say that, Jörg Manny, he's coming in the pits now. Let's see where that's going to put him. His next nearest competition is going to be Jim Brewster. And I think Brewster may indeed take over the Masters lead. Oh, maybe not. He's actually quite a ways back.
Brewster still needs a pit as well. That means yes. Murakami is even further back. So Murakami has really had issues here with pace after his pit stop with a couple incidents. But we do see Jörg Manny in for service now, and he's going to get rolling here pretty soon. Daniel Tufts also going to join the pit, coming to the pit lane. Jörg Manny with a 9.78 stop time, so not incredibly fast, not slow. Brewster has gone by to take over the Masters lead. Now we need to look for Murakami, who's nowhere in sight. So Jörg Manny going to be your effective Masters leader. Yeah, Murakami coming out of the final corner now, down the front straightaway as he crosses the line. So he's got a lot of ground to make up to Jörg Manny, who's effectively the Masters Division leader at this point of the race. So he went from leading overall now to the Masters lead on a great recovery run. He's coming out in front of Kane Lasky. Oh, sorry, no, that's Michael McConnell and Kane Lasky, not Jörg Manny. So this battle for third or for second, not really much of a battle. Kane hasn't been looking very racy right now. Looks to be saving fuel. And honestly, these drivers have been able to save a lot of fuel as we're at the 35 3/4 minute mark. This is one of those tracks that has so much opportunity for fuel saving that fuel limits might be a little bit be damned. You might be able to go away with a no stop here if you time it just right and get the pace just right. And I will Kane Lasky gets that exit curb, and you see just how wet these curbs are. He's going to use the opportunity to dive into pit lane. Great recovery move there out of Kane Lasky. He's not going to lose a whole lot of time and able maybe to make up a little bit of it on pit entry, but a really heads up move out of Kane Lasky to come in for service after that. He's not going to be able to go without a fuel stop. Long pit here for Jim Brewster. He's been stationary now for 15 seconds. We saw the car up on Jackson, so possibly taking tires. Yeah, now they're putting the rears on. So an interesting move out of Brewster to take tires here. As Kane Lasky comes in for service, you got to think that this wasn't planned. Kane Lasky comes out of the pits. He was stopped for 6.6 seconds. Look at just how much fuel he was able to save. Should be able to easily jump McConnell here on fuel strategy alone. He was right there on the rear of Michael McConnell and was saving so much fuel this race. So a really heads up move there on after the incident to come into pit lane, been able to save a lot of fuel. This race could be in Kane Lasky's hands. He should easily have second, and if there's a mistake out of Joyner, he could be looking at a win.
Well, one thing I did notice as well is certainly that Julian Ditchburn has emerged just in front of Kane Lasky right now, so it's going to be very interesting to see what exactly goes on. And, are these guys going to fight? Like, we're going to have to take a peek. Certainly, you can see from the timing standings, a lot of mixture going on. Certainly, the field, for the most part, quite spread out. Lasky and Ditchburn are going to be the ones to watch, but McConnell, he's the big question. Where is Lasky going to emerge? But let's take a look at Ditchburn first of all. There's Ditchburn, there's Lasky. Where's McConnell? As Ian Joyner's just come in the pits as well. And here we go. The fight to the end is going to be on. And McConnell absolutely slides onto that inside line, ends up at the back of the field. So Julian Ditchburn is currently going to be leading the charge in some way. It depends on how far back Joyner emerges. He's almost a lap ahead. It's fair to say he's got that slam dunk for the lead, as that's Jim Brewster back in the pits again as well.
Yeah, Jim Brewster coming in for more service. Not exactly sure what's going on there after his long stop for tires. Possibly didn't put fuel in it, just came in for tires and now coming in for fuel. McConnell's struggling to get the pace going again. Is falling back off the back of Kane Lasky. Julian Ditchburn, a bit of a surprise. Now in P2, going to have to deal with Kane Lasky. Kane's going to have enough fuel in there to fight for this. So he's going to have to really get on the button to get that P2 spot that he probably thought was easily his. I certainly thought was easily his. Totally forgot about Julian Ditchburn. Don't forget about Ditchburn. Much like Dre, don't forget about him. He's now in P2 leading the way here. Kane Lasky going to look to the inside, show his nose in the mirror, but not really in a position to make a move. Going to go very aggressively to that turn one apex curbing where we've seen a few drivers get it wrong. So Kane Lasky looking pretty bold right now, trying to find tenths where everybody else is struggling for grip. Kane Lasky on the charge. He's managed to close that gap back up. So maybe not the fastest in the last section of the track, but it seems to be pretty good through turns 1 and 2. We'll see how he's able to hold here through the S's, as he's looking very racy right now. Definitely running a tighter line through most of these corners than Julian Ditchburn, and keeping the pressure on. He's going to be in a good position here. He needs a really good run out of these last two corners. And it looks like he's set up in a good position, going to get that hammer down early, let it run wide, let that dog eat, and now going to have a healthy dose of slipstream coming down the main straightaway.
Well, I think Lasky was relying on passing in the pits for a lot of success today, and certainly it's helped him, but it looks like he's now going to have to force a move. And look at the slide there. Ditchburn twitching on the outside, Lasky on the inside, and these guys going back to single fire. That's Jeff Jacobson rejoining the track ahead of him. Let's see how that's going to work out for him. Potentially a spanner in the mix. We'll go on board. There you go. There's Julian Ditchburn. You can see Jacobson ahead. He's quick to get out of it. Yeah, Lasky's come too. Oh, Almost had the door shut on him there by Jacobson. Certainly Kane Lasky, not one of the most popular drivers in this series. And that's not to say that Jacobson shut the door on him fully, but certainly I don't think he would have necessarily been as courteous. Certainly Lasky did ruffle a few feathers over in the SRF. McConnell, on the other hand, he's dropped right back at this point.
Ditchburn with a slide there. He just caught it as he came off of camera. He ran a little bit wide through that penultimate corner on the exit, catches that outside, possibly even just the paint. We're seeing him a few corners before he gets there. Yeah, here he comes across this final curve, the curbing here, and gets out there. And just on the paint, gets the left rear out there on that paint. It's enough to send that car around, and that's going to give Kane Lasky an easy P2. I don't think that Jacobson was necessarily closing the door. It's just he was in the S's. He decided to back out of that second corner in the S's, which gave the inside to Ditchburn. That put him on the inside on Kane Lasky, so made Kane go around the outside. We're going to see Ian Joyner finally coming in for pit service here in the closing stages of this race as he's coming in at the checkered flag.
He'd already pit. This is the end. You know, we didn't realize. That's the second time that's happened, I believe, in the last couple of shows where we've been having so much fun watching the action. We've actually missed the race ending. Now, Ian Joyner took the win quite comfortably by 20 seconds. Lasky, he had a very good stroke of luck there with Ditchburn not quite getting it right. McConnell's following him there into the pits. Masters was Jörg Manne. We'll get to the full results here in a minute. JG, too, though, I've got to say, give him a shout-out. Made his way back up to P6. Let's tell you what, let's keep an eye on JG for a minute, because this gentleman we know has got form for certain kinds of antics here at Weekend Warriors. Let's see if he has indeed found a potential spot to take flight.
We'll see if he can find one. We'll see if he has enough fuel. It looks like the car is not under full power. Yeah, many of these drivers running very tight margins on fuel, so he's going to not have the fuel to find any potential spot. I know there's a popular place at Suzuka for a bit of a skip pad. Maybe we're wrong.
Here we go.
Get going again. He was just waiting. Was he waiting for Adam Thompson to join him? So it looked like Adam Thompson able to join him. We got a wedge coming down. It's gonna ruin the party. Just an absolute cluster here on the front straightaway. Yeah, there to the inside of turn one. If you're able to come in through that little entry there's a bit of a skid pad we see out there. People like to run demo derbies in that section, or just mess around with cars there on the inside of turns 1 and 2 here at Suzuka, but didn't quite get there. We had a bit of a wedge coming down the front straightaway to send off this event.
Oh my!
After the race is completed, it was a stricken Jason Green there on the inside of the track. You really have to wonder if he would have started on the grid, where he would have finished. He was able to drive up that far. I mean, he's 35 seconds off the leader, but he could have been fighting for P2 pretty easily here, I think.
He certainly has the pace, but let's go and do a quick look at the final results, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see exactly how everything ended up rolling in. And we are going to start it off with your race winner. It was Ian Joyner. Absolutely demonstrated pure skill and talent today. He was your race winner. And not only that, for the S1s as well. Kane Lasky, a very lucky second place, but I will say well earned as well. You know, a little bit of luck got him up a spot on the podium. He takes second with Michael McConnell, a very respectable third. Jörg Manne, certainly an interesting character today. Earlier incidents put him further back, and then he was able to recover absolutely fantastically. Incredible pace today. He's fourth and your Masters leader. Julian Ditchburn has to settle for fifth with Jason Green in sixth. Daniel Tufts in seventh. Kevin Adrian eighth. Chris Murakami taking the second spot in Masters at P9. And Bill Walker able to take the S2 win and P10 overall.
In 11th place, a driver we only mentioned once in passing in this broadcast, Andrew Love. And normally, when you don't get much love on the broadcast, you have a pretty good race, and it turned out pretty good for him, up one spot in P11. Daniel Varon, who was leading the way in Spec 2 for much of this race, after Josh Wilkie had his incident, comes home down 2 spots in P12. Jeff Jacobson there. We saw trying to get out of the way of that battle second. Comes home with 13th. Joshua Wilkie, who had an incident about a third of the way through the race, that put him back a little bit, down 5 spots from where he started in 14th. Jeff Woodker comes home in 15th. Gary Wobolt in 16th. Adam Thompson, nobody really struggled for fuel here, so he's going to retain the Adam Thompson trophy and award for fuel strategy in 17th position. Jim Brewster comes home 18th. Paul Jackson in 19th. And rounding out your top 20, Brad Cathcart, 4 laps down.
My apologies there. In 21st, we had Tyler Hagan with Stevie Ray taking 22nd. Honestly, Stevie looked like he had great pace today and just got caught a couple of times there. Antonio Reese, the same deal. And then Simon Ball not actually taking the race start. But what an absolutely fantastic race. Certainly, whenever we've seen it rain here at the Weekend Warriors, it's been a very, very colorful experience. But Randall, I understand you've been able to catch up with Ian Joyner, I believe, our race winner.
Ian Joyner, an absolute clinic in the wet conditions today. How happy were you to see the rain start after qualifying?
I was neither happy nor sad, really. It just kind of was what it was. I knew it definitely gives you more opportunities, but also way more risk. I was kind of all set for a relatively dry race because qualifying had been almost dry and it looked like it was going to stay dry. But I always forget there's such a big gap in time between the two. So yeah, that's what it was, and fortunately kept it clean in the first few laps.
Those first few laps were a little crazy out there, especially at the front of the field. We saw some incidents going on up there. What was it like for you trying to drive through some of that traffic in the opening stages with all that spray and the really slick conditions?
It wasn't too bad in the end. I think my pace was pretty decent at that point. Probably should have qualified a little bit further forwards, but just didn't get the laps in at the end of qualifying on the track. So I was always in a position where I could hang on to people. And then, to be honest, most of them, I don't think people really even wanted to fight that hard. So there's one or two just pretty well pulled over on the straight, probably thinking a long game, but fortunately had enough pace to just to get clear. And then a couple of them were a bit unlucky as well and went off. And then it was just, to be honest, I was only probably 6 or 7 minutes in, and just try not to crash for the rest of it.
Absolutely. Well, an amazing race out of you. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go celebrate?
Yeah, you guys, I'm kind of feeling a little bit like I know the league a little bit more now. So yeah, thanks for covering it, and thanks to all the organisers. It's been a fun league to be part of.
Well, congratulations on your win. I normally don't get to cover this league, so hopefully you'll be up here talking to Ron's again in one of the future races. An absolutely amazing show today out of you. Congratulations, and have
I don't know. Were you guys just be sorry, but before we go, you weren't thinking about fuel? Was anyone thinking about fuel? I thought someone might try and get to the end.
We did mention it that this was one of those tracks where fuel limits might be damned. We're thinking maybe Kane Lasky had a really good opportunity to do that the way he was fuel saving, but he had an incident in the last corner and then decided to come into the pits off of that. So maybe that was what drove the nail into the coffin on that show.
Yes, because I sort of saw him sitting in the draft. I had this sinking feeling that we were all going to pit and he was just going to keep going, but it didn't work out that way. All right, thank you.
Yep. Congratulations again. That was Ian Joyner, your race winner, and Zippy, I think you found Jörg Manny lurking around there in the pit paddock.
Well, Jörg, certainly I did say you're going to have to try harder to get back here into the commentary booth, and you absolutely delivered today, sir. Certainly, it started the race well, and then from what I could see, there was a little bit of a whoopsie, but I got to say, what a recovery drive. Jörg took us through it.
Yeah, I knew I should. I told myself all the time, don't hit the puddles, don't hit the curb, don't hit the lines. And what did I do? I touched barely, just a tiny bit with my left back wheel. I touched the curb on turn 2, and then I was gone. But after that, I said to myself, okay, surviving a rain race, it's already good for me. But I tried my best, and I had the place to follow Ian, actually. But yeah. I'm happy. With 4th place, I'm happy. I covered up quite good, I think.
It's certainly not a drive to shake a stick out there, Jörg, and it's such incredibly challenging conditions. Certainly we saw turn 1 and turn 2 being a absolute pinnacle of disaster for a good portion of the drivers here today, but an absolutely fantastic recovery. Certainly it is interesting as well, Jason Green at the start, starting from the pits. Very, very interesting. I think that may have been a tactical decision. Maybe you know a little bit more about that, but if you do, by all means, let us know. But Jörg, before we let you go as well, is there anybody you'd like to thank for today's reassuring master success?
Thanks a lot, and I shout out for all my masterclass members with Chris and Antonio. They had not that much luck again because Chris went into the race with not enough fuel, so he underfueled quite heavily. And to you guys, of course, for the awesome broadcast, and I'm definitely gonna watch the video afterwards again. And yes, I know why Jason started from the pits. I'm not gonna tell. He's gonna tell you by himself.
Oh, go get him in here, yo. Get him in here by all means. I'll hang out for a little bit. If you can reach him and he appears, I would love to know exactly why, and I'm sure the viewers would at home. Certainly sounds like a little bit of a trade secret going on here. I can't imagine Jason Green getting a penalty, but the thought greatly amuses me. So I would be very interested to see if that was the case. But ladies and gentlemen, your Masters winner today, Jörg Manny. Great to have you back in the booth.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jörg, before you ran off real quick, I do have one more question. Since Bill Walker we weren't able to find Bill Walker to give him an interview, give you one more question here. I want to know about qualifying. The track seemed to be evolving pretty quickly lap to lap. How much were you looking to time that last lap to get a good lap in right at the end of the session?
Not at all. I was concentrating on my braking points, and I don't have my split times up, nothing. I never do that. I can feel that if I'm quick or not, and I felt something that is coming, but I was still not fast enough. I mean, I did 53s in practice on dry track, and that was still far off my pace for this week. And but I don't watch times. I absolutely don't watch times in qualifying.
Well, okay, interesting to hear. Not what I expected to hear, but
Ooh, look at that.
Also not completely surprised. And but it looks like we're trying to get our hands on Jason Green here. You're amazing amazing recovery. A little bit of heartbreak because we would have loved to see you fight with Ian Joyner there for the overall win, but able to drive back up in the fourth, pretty impressive.
Maybe next time. Okay, I will try to get Jason back into the broadcast room.
All right, amazing job, Jörg Manny. That was your Masters winner, Jörg Manny, with the recovery run, driving it back up the fourth after spinning out of the lead. And Zippy, have you had any luck yet? Maybe we can look at the upcoming broadcasts while we wait for Jason Green to appear.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I tell you what, you do the SMB, I'll do Pit Road Production. So take it away, Randall.
Sunday, November 17th. Here in just a little bit, Spec Racer Fords are going to be at Suzuka. An absolutely exciting race going to come out of those drivers on a very, very tight circuit at Suzuka. It should be a big field. And then Wednesday, November 20th, Group 1, the Miatas and TCRs at Mount Panorama for the Ray Esports Club Racing League. The next Saturday, the 23rd, the Formula Vs are going to take to Lebanon, which is an amazing track. Expect to see a lot of action there. Then next Sunday on the 24th, in this time slot, the same Formula Fords are going to take to Ridskogen, and then immediately after them, Spec Racer Fords at Monza. That's what you got coming up for you here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for the next week. And then Pit Road Productions, what do we have going on over there?
Well, if you take a look at Pit Road Productions, if I hit the right button, that generally tends to be part of it. Maybe a bad hotkey there. Nope, I just didn't load in the right image. So you know what? We're going to skip Pit Road Productions now. I'll fix that in a minute. Jason Green, we've managed to get hold of you because I've got to admit, your pit lane start was an interesting choice. Now, I'm actually going with, and that's why it's making sense. I'm wondering why you're not there with the pack, and I'm remembering literally at that point that you did the pit lane start. I have a feeling that you did that as a tactical decision. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was about?
I would love to say that was 100% planned. It was a giant mistake on my part. I had a crash in quali, so I put in only 5 liters when I towed, and I forgot to add the fuel back. So I realized it on the grid, went back to the garage, and by the time I added fuel, I had missed the start. So for the second week in a row, it was not planned to start from the pits.
Well,
but it ended up working out.
I got to admit, Jason, I would have figured I gave you enough credit for a tactical decision here, and you could have run with that, but I appreciate the honesty. So ladies and gentlemen there, JG, the coach extraordinaire, his coaching tip for this week is fuel the car. I'd expect that kind of
100%.
antics from Adam Thompson, actually. Obviously, we have the Thompson Trophy here at SMB, but I appreciate the honesty. Certainly, Jörg was kind of smiling and smirking a little bit. While I couldn't see his face, I could certainly hear the the sheer amusement in the tone of his voice. But JG, definitely, I've got to say, while on the standings it shows that you gain 2 positions, I kind of call that BS with the pit lane start. So a good recovery drive there from you.
Yep, thanks. Yeah, that's the first rain race that I haven't spun, so I'm super happy with that. I ruined my 0x when I got distracted by Daniel coming out of the pits and went off the track, but a 1x race, I'll take that in the rain.
That's definitely something that a lot of people would be proud of, myself included. I probably would have died by lap 4. But Jason, we're going to leave you be for the minute, as we are going to try once again to do the pit road production upcoming streams. Here we go. It helps if you hit the right button. So it's going to be on the Wednesdays, and generally the big thing about these ones, ladies and gentlemen, is the drivers can win a real driving experience in these cars. So we got the BIS F1600 Championship. The drivers competing to drive a real F1600, and then alternating with that, we have the BIS Radical Cup Canada. Incredible competition I've seen in that 40-50 car grids. It's honestly, to commentator, it's very busy. It's very occupied. Those guys very much pushing the limits. Everybody very, very motivated to get the drive in the real Radical. And I believe it's an SR3 that they'll be using. But certainly last year's winners back on the track again, Zach Buchanan and Ozzy Milwain. And interesting as well, we've seen some real Radical drivers taking to that. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, you can see that on our sister channel, Pit Road Productions. But before we head off, Randall, any closing thoughts, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. In the rain, it's going to be exciting every time. Here at Suzuka South, a great layout for these cars, provided a lot of excitement, a lot of toil for some of these drivers, and an absolute clinic of a race out of Ian Joyner in the rain, who managed to put on a 21.5-second victory over the rest of the grid, and just absolutely amazing stuff. I hope these guys race in the rain more. It's been very exciting joining this broadcast this week to watch this race. So with that said, stick around. We got the Spec Racer Forwards coming to you from Tsukuba in just a little bit of time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. My name's Randall McGrew. I've been joined by Daniel Zippy Salmon in commentary and at the production controls here at Suzuka in the wet for the Weekend Warriors Formula Ford, brought to you by Ray Esports. Stick around. We have more coming your way. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining in.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There.
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh no! Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead 2. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there, heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.